Hey guys, it's Baban and I am doing a quick little tutorial on how to draw braids in hair. Now these are some examples of ones that I've already drawn in different illustrations. I will put links to speed paints of this one of Zelda and the Danganronpa one at the end. This one is from a commission that I did recently, but this just shows you what my kind of braids look like when I've got them in a finished illustration. So what we're going to do to go and figure out how to draw them is rid of this, and we're going to look at some references that I have took of my own hair, and then from that we're going to go and overdraw it and figure out the shapes and how to replicate them, and then we're going to go and draw onto some little bases that I've done to do something a bit more finished. Now instead of just telling you draw this, draw this, draw this, we're actually going to look at the photos and figure out how to pick out the shapes from real life so that we can replicate them when we draw stuff. Okay, so the first thing that I do when I want to draw a braid is plot out the path that it's going to take and note that it's got more of a taper like this to it. So it's thicker at the top and thinner at the bottom, and we're going to draw one just straight down like this. And we're also going to draw one that's slightly on the side and is curving around a surface. Just so we're not drawing it from just one kind of angle, we've got a bit of a better understanding of it and be able to draw it at a different angle and wrapping around stuff. Okay, so what I'll do when I want to figure something like this out, I will start just drawing over it. Now this is what I did the first time I was trying to figure these out, so I was like, right, these are the basic shapes that we've got around the outside. So it curves like this, and this, and this, and this, and it goes all the way down, and it's basically the same shape replicating on both sides. Now, can you guys spot anything a little bit off that might help us here? Now, it took me a while of looking at this to figure it out, but what happens is you get these two curves here, like this, and every time they meet on one side like this, every time one ends and another starts, they converge at this point. If we draw a line straight across, then on the opposite side, that corresponds to the midpoint in one of the curves. And it works the other way too, so if we've got this curve here and this curve here, and we find the midpoint and we go across, that on the opposite side as well is the midpoint in this curve. And that goes all the way down. I mean, like almost, because of my wonky braiding. But yeah, you can plot this out like all the way down. So after figuring that out, what we get is this basic shape for the outside that does this repeatedly, and we know that the same shape is on the other side like this, but if we draw them where they line up, it doesn't look quite right. But if we select one of them, and if we just drag it up a little bit so that it is at this offset that we mentioned before, now we replicate the same shape. So basically what we're doing is we've got one curve here, and then we've got another curve where this other line ends, we want it to be halfway into the curve on the opposite side. So we can just go down like this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and make the basic shape for it. Okay, so we're going to go and draw that into these bases that we're going to use, and we're following this taper that I've already drawn in so that it keeps the shape that we want to draw. Okay, so now we've got a little bit of a base for this one, and now we've just got to figure out how to sort out what's in the middle. And like I mentioned earlier, we've got like one strand, two strands, three strands. So we want to be able to replicate that in what we're doing. Now we've already plotted out these lines on the outside, so if we go and pull those in like that, we can start to see the kind of shapes that we get. So if we pull these lines in a bit further like this until they end, we can see the kind of shape that we get there as well. So I'm going to go and define the edges of just this one again because it's a little bit cleaner than the other one, and we're going to drag in these lines from the edges. Now I can start to see another pattern with this, and that is that we get sort of a zigzaggy shape like this as all these braids curve over each other. but instead of just getting a straight zigzag, it curves over and around. It's a little bit easier to see now, once we've got these lines in, that there is a very clear zigzag shape in here, like that. But we don't want it to be just a straight zigzag shape, because these strands in the hair have a shape to them. They are rounded like this, so that like, we can put coils around it. We can see that they have an obvious curve to them, so we want them more to look like they are wrapping around each other, and then we get more of a curve like this. So we can just start joining all these lines up together like this. So curve that, curve these, curve them around like that, and we are keeping to this kind of zigzag shape that we've got. And you can see now how by breaking it into the outside shapes and then figuring out the inside second, you can figure out what kind of shapes to make. So let's go and draw those into our little sketch. So we're going to pull that down, and going to pull that down and leave a little space. So now all we're really doing is going and extending these lines from each one, but making sure that they curve around so that we get the illusion that they are curving underneath the strand that is going to be coming over the top of them. And there we go, we've got a braid. Now after you do this for a while, you start to figure out what the shape looks like, and you can pretty much just draw the lines straight in as a full thing rather than splitting it up into the outside and the inside, which is what we're going to go and have a look at in a minute. But first let's have a look at drawing them on the side. Now drawing them at the side is a little bit simpler because you only have to deal with the shapes of them. So all I'm doing is blocking in the big chunks of curves that we're going to see at the side, and the way that they wrap round into the centre, and putting in the ones that are going to be offset just slightly to the side of it as little bumps. Now because we understand that we've got this offset of the strands on the opposing side, it makes it really easy for us to just make a simple shape like this and have it read as a braid. Now we're just going to add it onto the little diagram that I've drawn and wrap it around this curve that I've made. It's important to remember to keep the shape of it more like a teardrop, or more kind of bigger at the top than it is as it tapers into the centre where it's going to be curving around. But it's a lot easier to draw braids on the side like this because we don't really have to deal with all the interweaving of them in the centre. We only really have to define where the big lumps at the sides are sticking out. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that to be able to draw these properly and have them read as a braid, we want to actually be able to pick it apart as if it were a real braid. So we want to be able to pick apart having 3 different strands of hair in it. So if I just draw, there's going to be one strand here that's purple, and we're going to have one strand that's blue. So there's very clearly 3 different strands of hair. Now if we can pick out the same shapes and number of strands in our braid, then I think we will have drawn a successful braid. So let's just start picking these out by filling them in. So we've got one strand here. We'll have another blue strand that's coming here, like this, and we will have a purple one here. Now you can see how that all weaves together and how we've managed to make it so it is definitely a realistic braid that actually works if you were to like even change the colour of the different strands. Let's do it on this one as well. So we'll have this here, and that will come and wrap around here. So we've got the blue that comes around here like this, and the pink, and the purple like that. So we're not just drawing something that looks like a braid, we're drawing something that actually can be broken down like a braid as well. And we've done that through understanding the shape of the braid from photos of it rather than just trying to figure it out without them. Okay, so now that we know how to draw braids, let's go and get rid of these. And I've drawn some quick little bases in that we're going to use. And I'm going to go and draw some details over the top, and then we're going to draw some braids on them. So we're going to give them some hairstyles, and like I just mentioned before, I like to draw in the path that the braid's going to take. So we're going to draw some loose braids, and we're going to draw some that are attached to the head as well, so they're a little bit tighter and they're going to wrap around the form. Okay, so I've got my basic flow down for the shape of my braids so that I can keep them consistent. I'm not making the lines all wibbly wobbly, they're not going to be getting fat and thin at different points. So let's go and draw these in. rotate this a little bit so it's a bit easier for me. And like I said before, we're going to start with this kind of shape and making sure that it's just offset. And I'm just going to speed this up a little bit so that it doesn't go on forever. Don't feel too bad if you guys kind of struggle with it while you're doing it, because it does take a while to figure out how to get into the flow of doing this with the different shapes. I got stuck a few times doing this and had to like go and erase and redraw things to make sure that it looked right. Especially when you're trying to wrap it around something, it can be quite difficult, but the more you do it, the more you'll get used to it, and after you've been doing it for maybe like 10 minutes or something, you start to get into the flow of it and it's really, really easy to kick them out. I'm also going to clean these up a little bit just so they're a bit easier to see. The lines are a bit more defined, so I'm going to go and block everything in with a flat colour. I'm just adding a little bit more detail to the hair so that it doesn't look strange, so that there is actually hair in between the braids. Just blocking in the colours so it's easier for you guys to see, and there we go. I'll just zoom in on these so we can see them a little bit better. So we've got some that kind of wrap around form on the head, and we've also got some loose ones, but they're all following the basic kind of layout that I had, the basic flow that I put down for them. So they're not wonky in any way, they're not veering off anywhere, they have stayed to the size that I want them, and all I've got to do after that is just follow the little formula that I had for drawing them. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope this helped. If it did, give us a like, share if you think it'll help someone else, and subscribe for new videos on Fridays. There's a link down in the description to my Discord group if you want to come and chat art stuff with us. There is also links to where I post stuff, as well as where you can get prints of stuff that I've drawn and my commission information. Lastly, here's some links to the videos that I mentioned earlier, the speed draws of the Zelda and Danganronpa illustrations. And if you're interested in this kind of format of tutorial, I have one more that goes over how I study and learn how to draw anything using this kind of process, and also one that I've done using this same kind of study from photographs on hand. Yeah, I hope this helped. Thanks for watching. Bye!